The WNBA is completely shut down right now. No trades, no signings, no free agency, no business operations whatsoever. And this isn't because of some external crisis or financial collapse. This is because the players' union just pulled the nuclear option and banned all contact between players and team. The same union leaders who spent 2 years trying to diminish Caitlin Clark's impact on the league are now demanding $2.5 million max salaries, while secretly building their own competing basketball leagues. The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Here's what makes this even more insane. Breanna, Stewart, and Napheesa Collier are literally owners of competing basketball ventures. While simultaneously negotiating against the WNBA, they're sitting at the bargaining table demanding millions more in salary cap space while running their own rival league that benefits when the WNBA struggles. The entire league just finished its most successful 2-year period in history, and instead of capitalizing on that momentum, union leadership is burning it all down. If the WNBA season gets canceled, where should Caitlin Clark play? Stick around because we're breaking down this absolute disaster. This should have been the most exciting time in WNBA history. Players should be signing new contracts and jetting all over the place for team meetings. There should be multiple expansion drafts happening with Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo joining the league. Fans should be getting excited about what their teams are going to look like next season. All this momentum from the most successful 2 years the league has ever seen, and instead everything is frozen solid. The WNBA just came off back-to-back record-breaking seasons where Caitlin Clark brought millions of new fans through the doors. Arenas that used to sit half empty were suddenly selling out, and corporate sponsors lined up to write massive checks. Then, on January 9th, the players' union let the collective bargaining agreement expire without a deal. The league immediately froze all business operations. Teams can't sign free agents. They can't make trades. They can't even make qualifying offers to their own players. The entire system just stopped working. Training camps face significant delays. Expansion drafts are on hold indefinitely, and arenas are already booking other events for dates that were supposed to host WNBA games. This is damaging the league in ways that might be irreversible. And fans are absolutely exhausted with how the players' union is approaching this situation. Before we go further, if you're as frustrated with this situation as we are, smash that like button. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss any updates on this developing story. Now, let's get into what the union is actually demanding. Here's what the union demanded that made ownership walk away from the table. They want a salary cap of $10.5 million per team. That's more than double what the league offered. They want maximum salaries of $2.5 million for individual players, when the league's best offer was around $1.3 million with potential to reach nearly $2 million over time. The union also demanded 30% of gross revenue, while the league countered with 70% of net revenue. These numbers don't even live in the same universe. And that's exactly the problem. The timing makes this whole situation absolutely ridiculous. Clark just delivered the biggest ratings boost in WNBA history. Attendance records fell every single week. New fans discovered the sport and fell in love with it. Corporate America finally took notice and started investing real money. The league was positioned to capitalize on unprecedented momentum and grow into something truly special. Instead, the union chose this exact moment to make impossible demands that threaten to destroy everything that's been built. Nobody knows when Portland and Toronto can actually start building rosters. Nobody knows if there will even be a 2026 season at this point. The union leadership spent the last 2 years consistently downplaying Clark's impact on the league. They minimized her role in driving attendance and television ratings. Veterans and union representatives regularly dismissed the new fans Clark brought to the sport. They acted like the league's success happened despite Clark, rather than because of her. Every time someone pointed to the sold-out arenas and massive television ratings, union leaders found ways to credit everyone except the player actually driving that growth. Now those same union leaders demand massive salary increases that only became possible because of the revenue Clark generated. They want $2.5 million max contracts funded by the very fans they spent 2 years insulting and calling fake supporters. They're essentially asking Clark's fan base to pay premium prices while getting lectured about not being real basketball fans. The same people who tried to erase Clark from the conversation now expect her success to fund their retirement plan. This isn't just ironic, it's a complete betrayal of the player who saved their league and made these salary demands even remotely possible. Here's where things get really messy. Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier are supposed to represent WNBA players during these contract negotiations. They're union leaders fighting for better pay and working conditions. They sit across from league executives demanding millions more in salary cap space and player compensation. But they're also co-founders and owners of Unrivaled, a completely separate basketball league that directly competes with the WNBA. Let that sink in for a minute. The same people negotiating against the WNBA are building their own rival basketball operation. Stewart and Collier launched Unrivaled as a direct alternative to playing overseas during the WNBA offseason. They position themselves as innovative leaders, creating new opportunities for women's basketball. They raised funding, secured venues, and recruited top talent to join their venture. The conflict runs deeper than just divided loyalties. Stewart and Collier need star players to make Unrivaled profitable. They need WNBA players frustrated with their current contracts and working conditions. They need the WNBA to look like an inadequate option compared to what they're building. A successful WNBA contract negotiation actually hurts their business interests, and that's the real problem here. The timeline tells you everything you need to know about their priorities. Stewart and Collier announced Unrivaled while simultaneously ramping up their roles as union voices in WNBA negotiations. They spent months developing their business model and securing investors for their own league. They recruited WNBA stars to play in their competition during active contract talks with WNBA ownership. The overlap isn't coincidental. When you're supposed to be fighting for the WNBA's growth and success, you don't secretly build a competing platform that benefits from the WNBA's failure. Stewart and Collier have direct financial incentives for their own league to succeed. Unrivaled benefits when the WNBA struggles or fails to meet player demands. Every dollar that doesn't go to WNBA salaries makes their alternative look more attractive to top players. Stewart even said in an interview that after games, she has to take emails and phone calls and deal with business decisions for Unrivaled. Wouldn't it just be easier if the WNBA didn't exist anymore? That's essentially what she's saying. The union's negotiating strategy makes perfect sense when you realize their leaders profit from failure. Stewart and Collier don't need the WNBA to thrive. They need it to fall short so players look elsewhere for better opportunities. The union, demanding millions of dollars in salary increases, spent 2 years systematically attacking the very fans who made those paychecks possible. Caitlin Clark brought unprecedented crowds to WNBA arenas. Television ratings exploded as millions of new viewers discovered the sport. Corporate sponsors finally saw value in women's basketball. Revenue streams that never existed before started flowing into the league. Instead of welcoming this growth, veteran players and union representatives immediately went on the offensive against Clark's fan base. They questioned whether these new supporters were legitimate basketball fans. They suggested Clark's popularity was somehow artificial or undeserved. The hostility escalated throughout Clark's first season. New fans were called names, investigated, and shunned by WNBA media and players. The league's most vocal union supporters made it clear that Clark supporters weren't welcome in their vision of women's basketball. Veterans criticized new fans for not understanding WNBA history and demanded these supporters prove their loyalty to other players and team. They created an atmosphere where being excited about Clark's performances somehow disrespected the rest of the league. The disconnect between demanding higher salaries while insulting the revenue source became impossible to ignore. Union representatives expected Clark's fans to support massive pay increases for players who spent months criticizing those same supporters. Caitlin Clark just delivered the WNBA's most successful 2 seasons in league history. Lexi Hull stepped up as a reliable role player who earned her spot through hard work. Aaliyah Boston dominated the paint and proved she belongs among the league's elite centers. Kelsey Mitchell provided veteran leadership while maintaining her scoring prowess. These players represent everything good about the WNBA's future. They showed up every night and delivered entertainment value that justified higher attendance and television ratings. They handled criticism with class and let their games speak for themselves. Now, the moratorium freezes all their progress. Clark can't build chemistry with potential new teammates. The Fever can't make roster moves to complement their core group. Hull and Boston lose valuable development time during what should be their peak growth period. Mitchell faces uncertainty about her future with the team that needs her leadership most. The entire organization sits in limbo while union leaders play political games. Clark's professional response to this chaos stands out dramatically. She focuses on her training and development instead of making inflammatory public statements. Her social media stays positive and basketball focused. She supports her teammates without getting dragged into contract drama, and her measured approach contrasts sharply with the union's confrontational tactics and public relations disasters. The union's salary demands actually threaten competitive balance across the entire league. Massive max contracts would concentrate talent on a few wealthy teams. Small market franchises like Indiana might lose their best players to bidding wars they can't afford. The Fever's chemistry could get destroyed if star players chase individual paydays elsewhere. Team building becomes impossible when every negotiation gets overshadowed by money discussions. Fan support for Clark and her teammates grows stronger while union approval ratings crash, and the disconnect between player popularity and union leadership becomes more obvious every day. These rising stars earn their success through performance and professionalism. They build genuine connections with fans who invested emotionally and financially in their success. The union sacrifices these players' careers for leadership that profits from league failure. Clark deserves better than having her prime years wasted on contract politics. Hull and Boston need stability to reach their potential. Mitchell earned the right to compete for championships instead of watching from the sideline. The WNBA reached its highest point because of these players, and union leadership chose conflict over collaboration. They prioritize personal business ventures over league success, and now everyone suffers the consequences of their selfish decisions. The WNBA can still recover from this disaster, but it requires fans to make their voices heard. Your support matters more than ever right now. Keep buying Caitlin Clark jerseys and Indiana Fever merchandise to show the league what really drives revenue. Attend games when they finally resume to prove that fan interest hasn't disappeared during this unnecessary drama. Social media engagement shows ownership and sponsors exactly who fans actually care about. And right now, those numbers tell a clear story that contradicts everything union leadership claims about league popularity. Demand better from union leaders who created this chaos. The sport deserves leadership that builds instead of destroys. The 2026 season can still deliver incredible basketball if everyone focuses on the game instead of politics. If the WNBA season gets canceled, where do you think Caitlin Clark should play? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you're frustrated with how union leadership is handling this situation, smash that like button to show your support for the players caught in the middle. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss updates on this developing story. The future of women's basketball depends on fans like you holding leadership accountable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.